In this recording, I'm going to cover something called traits in object-oriented PHP. Traits are a way of adding the same functionality to different kinds of classes. Before I get into that, let me just say that I record in high resolution, so you don't have to watch on a blurry screen. Choose high definition if that will work for you. Would you like to join a growing group of PHP developers and take your skills to a new level? If that sounds like you, all you need to do is subscribe and click the little notification icon, and welcome. I'm going to start off by creating a couple of classes. Now they're going to be totally different classes. One is going to be a calculator class and one is going to be a customer class. So I'm going to follow the convention that we've established in the last couple of recordings, where we give these namespaces which also follow the folder structure. So for the calculator, it's going to be found in app calculators namespace, and the folder structure is also app calculators. And I'm going to give this a function called setLogger. So you're going to be able to log things about the calculator. So the setLogger method just allows you to set a logger property on the calculator, and we'll also declare a logger property at the top here. So now what I'm going to do is create another directory called users, and inside of that I'm going to have a customer class. And again, this will have a folder structure and a namespace which both match. And guess what? This is also going to have a logger property, and it's going to have an identical method for setting a logger. So here we have some duplication. What if this is a big application and you want to set loggers on multiple classes? Are you going to write out the same method in every single class? Also, have a look at our classes. One's a calculator, one's a customer. So they're not really related. You can't use inheritance because a customer is more likely to inherit from a user class, if anything, like we're doing here. Now, a calculator, it wouldn't make sense to inherit from a user. In some programming languages, you have multiple inheritance where you can inherit from more than one parent. We don't have that in PHP, but what we do have in its place are traits, which are pieces of functionality that can be shared amongst non-related classes, just like our customer and our calculator. And this is how you create them. Notice instead of the word class, I'm using the trait keyword because it's a trait and it's in the app logging namespace. What I'm going to do now is delete this setLogger method from the customer class. I'm going to cut it from the calculator class. Then I'm going to go over to the trait and paste it into there. And then in order to use the trait in my other classes, I just need to put use loggable trait. Notice that the use statement is inside the class, not outside the class. The use statement outside of the class is for importing it. So over in the customer class, I do the same thing, use loggable trait, and outside of the class, I have the use statement for importing the loggable trait. So now I want to try this out. I've got a public folder inside my chapter 4 folder, and inside of that I'm creating an index file. If you followed the last couple of videos, you'll probably already have an index file, and it's perfectly okay to just carry on using the same one. In the same folder I have an autoload.php file which I created in the autoloading lesson. If you don't have that, just pause the video here and copy what's on your screen now. Okay, in order to make this work, we are actually going to need a logger class. So inside of the app logging folder, I'll create a PHP class called logger. And it's going to be very simple. It's just going to have one method, which is log. And we'll just put in a return token bit of text to prove that it's working when we call this method. Back over to the index.php file. What we need to do is new up a logger, so logger equals new logger, and I can import this, and then what I want to do is use that logger, so customer equals new customer, and same for this. And what I'm going to do is set the logger on the customer, so customer set logger to logger. Now that we know all about type hinting, we might as well do that also. And we'll add a getLogger method as well, because for what I have planned, I think we're going to need it. So this will just return this logger, and then we'll go back to the index file and we'll use this. So I'm adding a paragraph, and then using the short echo PHP echo tags, I'm going to say customer get logger log, and then let's go over to the browser and see if that works. Okay, that's perfect. Logging. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of rules. So I'm using loggable trait, but what if I also had a setLogger method in my customer class? We'd need to be sure of which one is being called, the one from the loggable trait or the one which is actually in the customer class itself. So I'll put in some echo statements so we know which one is being called. So inside the customer setLogger method, I'm going to echo called from customer. And then I'll copy that, take it over to the loggable trait and paste it into the setLogger method, and I'll just change this to called from loggable trait. So this way we'll know which one is being called. Over to the browser, and it's being called from customer. So that takes precedence. If the same method is defined in the class, then the one in the class will be used. Here's one for you to figure out if you want to have a go. How about if we remove this setLogger method from customer and placed it in user? Which setLogger method do you think would be called then? Would it be the one in user or the one in loggable trait? Pause the recording and give it a go if you like. I'll go and do it myself. So over to user, paste it into there. Also need to add the use app logging logger. I'll change this to called from user instead of called from customer. But bear in mind it's still customer that is calling the method. Refresh, and there you go, it's being called from the loggable trait. So in this case it's actually the loggable trait which takes precedence over inheritance. So that's traits. There is more to them than what I've shown you, but I've shown you the main things. You can actually import traits into other traits, and there are other rules. However, if I showed you everything, you'd forget half of it anyway, and that's what Google's for. Hope that you found this one useful. Leave any questions or comments down below, and if you have enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like, and don't hesitate to share if you want to help others like yourselves. Help each other out, that's what good developers do. And also, if you want YouTube to show you more of my content, all you need to do is subscribe and click the little notification icon. I record new material 2 times a week. Details of my schedule can be found on the discussion tab of my YouTube channel homepage.